and what exactly that means and why it's being targeted at specifically the left right now. So civility is considered to be, according to the Webster's Dictionary, civilized conduct, which is courtesy or politeness. So why are we discussing this? So over the weekend, there was a few incidences in where Trump appointees, Trump administration appointees have gotten kicked out of restaurants, been asked nicely to remove themselves from establishments, and have been yelled and heckled basically by concerned citizens. And during this time, what happened with the debate is that now Maxine Waters ended up making a statement, or I guess at some sort of, I'm not even sure where she was. I did listen to her speech. It may have been a rally of some sort. She mentioned about how citizens need to continue to protest, continue to yell at these people, because they should, as long as they are implementing policies that are destructive or that we find destructive to our society, they should not experience peace, of which I would be in total agreement with that. However, now people are on both the center left and the right have been calling for basically, no, we shouldn't do this because that is uncivilized. We need to maintain a certain level of decorum and civility. And I guess it's in response to call for protests, which, by the way, are the most American fucking things you can do. If you remember from your US class, America was basically founded from a protest. There were a lot of protests, and I guess the most quintessential one was the Boston Tea Party, where you had people throwing merchants' tea into the water. So there was really not much civility there, I have to admit. And you can name a series of protests where there quote unquote lacked civility. So how do you have a quote unquote civilized or civil protest? It just makes no sense to have this argument right now. So it's being framed from the left, or I guess not from the left, but from the center left. I use that very liberally right now, as something that just we shouldn't do. In fact, I think some people have made the comparison that, well, if people are in restaurants and they're getting kicked out for whatever reason, isn't that akin to discrimination or discriminating against homosexual people, like in the case of the bakery where the bakery denied or declined making a cake for this homosexual couple for their wedding? To which I would respond, no, that's false equivalence, because what you have is a protected class of citizens, and you denied them based on some core characteristics that they are, things that they did not decide to be, they cannot change. Whereas in the case of, for instance, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was asked very kindly to remove herself from the establishment, she was removed based off of no physical characteristics, nothing that for any. She was removed based off of her political ideology to some extent, or for the fact that she is constantly lying for an administration that is doing horrible things that a lot of people are considering to be horrible things. And by the way, that political ideology or political affiliation is by no means a protected class. I don't know if it will to kind of one of those slippery slopes. Well, if businesses can discriminate based or remove people from establishments based off of political affiliation, they could do that for your political affiliation. If they see you have like a Democratic donkey shirt on, they can remove you. To which I'm saying, well, yeah, I guess that's their right to do so, because right now that political affiliation is definitely not a protected class of citizen. And so that is, and how they have somehow done this huge leap in logic about, well, now we have to arm ourselves. Like, wait, Maxine Waters says to protest, and now you're saying you need to arm yourself? And besides, this is protest against powerful people, right? People in power, not protest, I don't know, Joe Blow down the street. What did Joe Blow do? But yeah, apparently this means civil war. So now we should all arm ourselves because protests. Like that's so deranged and so out of left field to me, or right field, if you will, that I need somebody to tell me how they ended up coming up with that. They're like, yeah, she's inciting violence. I'm like, what? Where? I watched her speech. I watched it. And all she said was, yeah, continue to protest, continue to yell. She didn't say go and burn people's houses down and punch them and shoot them in the face. So even in a court of law, that would not hold water at all. And you know how the courts have been ruling lately. So I would imagine that I don't know where that narrative comes from, guys. Nothing at all. But yeah, so we're here, I guess, talking about civility. Hooray! Y'all, Janet, you want to jump in and kind of let's get your take on this?
Yeah, so anyways, I mean, I think everyone knows my take on it since I'm putting up fuck your civility everywhere. But I mean, the whole thing is, and this is even one thing that we discussed when we started IPM was the whole thing about punching down and punching up. You know, all through history, you know, people have been punching down, and then the ones that try to punch up are always they're the ones that are getting the blame for being uncivil. It's a dog. It's one of those dog whistles against lefties, and it always has been. And I mean, we have every right to fight for our message, and we are not discriminating when we go after someone that is rich and powerful. We're not discriminating against them. They've had everything handed to them. They're going to, I mean, Sarah loses her job. She's not out of money. She's still okay. She's gonna be okay. I mean, and for them to sit there and tell us that we need to be civil, it's they're acting us like we're kids and they're the adults and they know what's going on. But all along, they haven't been civil to us. Like, where's the civility when it comes to us? They lie. They call us basement dwellers. They call I mean, they call us different names like that. I mean, even like on the MAGA side, they were calling them deplorables. They're pushing down on people that don't have much. We have every right to push back. That's my take on it.
I think that this is a great way to make sure that the progressive left stay silent, right? If they say that you aren't being civil, you're going to be responsible for all this upheaval and chaos, which is essentially what they're implying. Even on the right, that's what they're implying. It's the lefts, these progressive lefts that are the loud, are trying to get their message across, and trying to conduct. It's the progressive left doing real protests, by the way. It's not like these stupid marches. And by the way, guys, if you feel like a march is something that you need to do them. I just question their efficacy, that's all. But for other things, like for ground root protests, actual protests, these are the left. These are the progressive left, the formerly progressive base of the Democratic Party that they keep shitting on. But that having said all of that, you've got both the left, center left, and the right silencing or attempting to silence the progressives in America. And to which I say, I think we've had enough. I think we're done with this bullshit. Because, yeah, so what if your feelings get hurt? Because don't they always say that to us? Like, oh, whatever about like facts over feelings or whatever. Who cares about your feelings or something like that? I'm like, and was anybody hurt? Does anybody get killed when they get yelled at or protested at or against? Generally, no. In fact, I remember there was a large protest in Charlottesville a couple years ago, and it was somebody on the progressive left that got murdered during that time. And so it's a risk to us, I think, more so than any other group in the United States. We are the most like stigmatized group in the United States. And then they throw out instances. Well, Steve Scalise got shot at. I'm like, yeah, well, what's her name? Gabrielle Gifford got shot in the face by a right wing nut too. None of that had to do with any type of protests, by the way. Those were lone wolves. So I just don't understand the narrative from either perspective, because if you stay civil, which is really them saying stay silent, shut your face, right? And by the way, Democrats, aren't Black women supposed to be like the people that you follow, the people you listen to because they're the heart of the party? You just fucking threw a Black woman under the bus for saying, don't stay silent, speak out. You threw her under the fucking bus. So I'm like, as a Black woman myself, I'm like, I don't play with the Democrats. They do not have our interest in heart, at mind, or anything like that. They want you to vote, and then they're gonna turn around and fucking use you as a scapegoat. That's all. So they want to use you. They want to use you. Pisses me off. I'm sorry. Yeah. That makes me mad. Makes me mad on both ends. Like now I'm literally considering getting a fucking firearm because of the deranged people on the right too. Because they're thinking like we're going to attack them. No, we're not going to attack you. I have no interest in you. I do have an interest in protesting against the people in power, the powerful. You hold no power. You are not a target for my yelling. But now they're like, we got to arm ourselves because we're going to shoot and mow down the progressive left. Literally, this is what they're fucking saying. But okay, guys, you guys on the right, where's the civility? Where is it, huh? Where is it? You saying, let's mow down the left. Is that really civil? Is that really civil? And you in the center, right? Or center left, but yeah, center right. Like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, where are you guys saying like, where's the civility when people start talking about literally killing other Americans? Why don't you focus on that being non-civil?
Well, I mean, we get it everywhere. Like, I mean, the whole joke about, so much for the tolerant left, I mean, why should we be tolerant? What has that gotten us so far? Honestly, where are we? Why should we be tolerant to these people that are not tolerant to us, and that actually view us as enemies? That we're like, I mean, the whole thing when they talk about like communism and socialism, they don't know the difference between the two, so they put it all together and they're like, communists have killed all these people. No. None of those states that claim that they were communists that ended up killing people were communist states. I mean, they were not countries that were solely communist. Yes, they were communist for the people, but not for for the general population, but not for the rich and not for the oligarchy. And that's what those were. So, I mean, it baffles my brain when they expect us to just sit back and be tolerant. It was always, I always felt that way too, because, as being a woman, I got that a lot because I'm very shy as a kid. But when I got into my 20s, I broke out of that. It was a lot to do with anxiety. I broke out of that. And I was told left and right, that I should just sit there and look pretty, or I should, just be quiet and listen to the men. And I got that a lot. And this is the 90s. This wasn't, way back before that. It's just, no, I'm with being tolerant. I am done with it.
Well, I mean, it's a false setup, right? Because it's a narrative designed to make sure you fail. Because if you're like, if you don't accept somebody's intolerance, right? You have to by default, because That's the narrative that I've designed for you, that I just invented. No, like this is not a thing that nobody has to be tolerant towards your fucking intolerance. That is a false narrative that was invented by the right to control the message, right? So that they can get away with literal murder. So that they could take over the country with their little with their like bullshit backwards crappy. I mean, just any terrible term, think of it, and that should apply to the right, by the way. But just anything that like really kind of crushes human rights and human dignity, they are all about that. And but you have to tolerate that because I said you have to, because otherwise you're intolerant. Yeah, fuck, except you crushing human people's lives, you crushing their dignity, and you stealing things from all of us. I don't tolerate that. That was a fake message that you guys designed. So one thing that the right is really good at, that the left needs to get their shit together about, and maybe it's because we've been saying silent because we've been told to, right, is messaging. Because they can go, well, the invented just out of their head. Okay, well, the left is supposed to be tolerant. Well, wait, what? Where'd that come from? I didn't know I was supposed to be tolerant towards your intolerance. I had no idea. Yeah, so they're really good at doing that, which is why I'm really concerned about the narrative that they're designing right now in this whole thing about the whole, well, we need to arm ourselves. I'm really concerned about that because again, they're very good at messaging. And I don't have a solution for this. All I can say is like, look, we have no interest in fighting down or fighting across, right? We want to oppose those in powerful positions. We have no interest in fucking fighting you. None. Now, does that mean that I won't protect myself? I'm going to protect myself at all costs.
No, I'm typing. Is the Hey, Amanda? Amanda, I don't know if you can hear me. You're actually okay.
I was muted. Sorry.
You're kind of, yeah. And now the video's like,
wow. I can't believe I like went through this whole thing and I was muted the whole time.
I thought it was me. I was like, did I do something on my end? Because I was trying to type a message.
Sorry, guys. Okay, so I don't even know what I was saying. I was reading something from Brad. So Brad Bloom makes a point. He said, I gotta find it again. Where is it? Something about like tolerating intolerance will lead to the extinction of tolerance. Something to that effect. Sorry, I lost it. But that's something to that effect, to which I would agree. It does create this like way of assuring that intolerance is the dominant narrative, and that's the now expectation. Because if you have to sit back and accept that type of intolerance, otherwise, okay, so here's another thing is, okay, you just call me intolerant, so the fuck what? I don't care. You want to call me whatever, just do it. I don't care. So what are we afraid of if people call us intolerant? Go, have at it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, are we so afraid of name calling? I mean, it's just names. I'm not a fucking snowflake like these people on the right. I'm not. So I don't mind being called any sort of names. Just do it.
Speaking of the snowflake thing, I used that against a MAGA girl, whatever it was. It was probably just a bot, but anyways, I did the whole thing that it was used against abolitionists, so it actually fits you better than it fits any liberals. Thought I'm not liberal either, but and man, were they upset about that. They did not like that one, Amanda. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hate using that term just because I do know where it came from with the that it was targeted at abolitionists. And I'm like, again, why does it always boil down to race for you guys? Come on. Like, you could have used any term, but you guys specifically chose snowflake. Wonder why. I mean, I don't need to ask these questions. We all know. We all know what's up with that. But it's so amazing that here's why I think they're so upset, right? They just crumbled, they crushed, they're like all falling apart because this stuff does their feet are hurt, right? I mean, could you imagine? Like, I know how I feel, and I know how the people, I know Janet, how you feel about Barack Obama, right? He was called names, he was called a liar, but do you think he really went onto Twitter and went like, yeah, so this person called me a liar, and that's just so uncivil. I mean, he didn't say shit about it because at least he wasn't fucking melting down at these things. He wasn't, distraught about these things. I mean, it literally put the fucking nation at gridlock now. Look at the discussion we're having about civility now, right? Because of how upset it made these people. Because they're so upset that they have to get yelled at. Who, that just to me shows how weak they are. They're weak human beings. They are so fragile, whatever. They usually say it's fragile. I've been told it's fragile though. But they're so weak that they can't even handle being yelled at. I've been yelled at plenty of times, and no one's died, guys. I'm still alive, because people want to yell at me, go for it. What to me? If I'm really, really, really sure about what I'm doing, no matter what, yelling at me is not going to hurt my feelings one bit. Kicking me out of a restaurant isn't going to hurt my feelings one fucking bit. Because I'm like, I love what I'm doing. I'm doing it because I really believe in the cause or whatever. Because I have that much strength. Now, people that are upset about this, why are y'all so upset? Why? Because they're weak. That's all. And they do like to pretend that they're victims because they have nothing else to stand on. Let's see. They're white. They're probably Christian. So like they're pretty dominant people in our society. They're wealthy, which helps a lot. So now they're like, well, I have to pretend to be a victim because I victimize others. And I want people to be distracted from that. And so that people are like, yeah, I really understand where you're coming from because look at the kind of victim that I am. But in the background, I'm secretly taking all this shit from you. And so I'm victimizing you, but you're not going to notice that because you're going to be so focused on the fact that now somebody called me a name or somebody yelled at me. And I'm so sad by that. See, look at me. I'm a poor victim. I mean, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I mean, I just can't imagine. So we all understand, a lot of us do, how thin-skinned these people are, how thin-skinned Donald Trump is. So why is there like any perception of strength here? How is like crumbling and tweeting out, about how these people did X, Y, and Z a sign of strength? No, that's a sign of you lashing back because your feelings got fucking hurt. That's all that is. People that really are strong in this regard don't have to say a damn thing about anything. And often don't, because they're just like, what else? I've been told this a lot. Or, okay, and So I just don't understand what is the appeal? I don't get it, guys. I don't get it. I probably never will, but maybe somebody will enlighten me on that one day. So we do have our calls set up today. The number is 508-534-8585. If you want to be a part of the discussion or call in and just say hi, you're more than welcome to do so. So we are taking calls today.
I want to jump back into something. I want you to elaborate more on the fact that why do they believe this is discrimination when it's against, like, it just doesn't make any sense when it's against, a politician, and then they're using stories that are against a group of people, like saying, like you said about the cake shop and the gay marriages and stuff like that. It kind of feeds into how they don't get what the First Amendment is either.
Well, they think it's discrimination because they don't know what discrimination is. They think that anytime that you say anything against them or their policies is a discriminatory thing to do. And no, discrimination is literally not that at all. It's definitely targeted usually at a group of people, specifically at a minority group of people, to basically keep them in the minority and keep them in a certain place. And that's what discrimination is. There's a lot of policies that have been in the past based off of discrimination. You had Jim Crow and segregation and things like that. And that's discrimination. But because they have no fucking understanding of what it is, anytime you say anything that they perceive to be negative is going to be discrimination to them. Now, why is there the narrative from more centrist liberals going like, well, if this is kind of equivalent to discriminating against homosexuals? I don't know. You think that they would have more sense than to make that comparison, considering that, again, that is a group of people that are in the minority that have had atrocities done to them, that have not had the same privileges as non-homosexuals or as heterosexuals have had. So I don't see the comparison either. But it does create an interesting narrative to assure that those on the left shut up, because they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to be seen as somebody that discriminates, right?
Yeah.
But again, political affiliation is not a protected class of person. About half and half percent of the country is identified as conservative or liberal. So again, being like in the majority, you're currently in the majority party. I just don't know how that's discrimination. It's not, but it does assure that those on the progressive left shut up. I think that it's a good I don't know how effective it's going to be this time, but I think it has worked in the past.
We have a phone call. We have Andrew on the phone. Do you want to talk to him?
All right. Hi, Andrew.
Andrew, can you hear?
Yeah, guys. Can you hear me clearly?
Can you hear him?
A little. It's a little low, the volume.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, Andrew, I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. There was a white supremacist novelist that wrote this story about how the better America would be the result of a civil war where they ethnically cleansed. But they believe it. So they're trying to make events fit their white supremacist fairy tale. Are you guys still there? I'm seeing nothing but lag.
No, I think so
on the thing, it's not.
Oh, it's not loading?
No. I don't know why.
Okay, can people in chat?
I'm wondering like how many people that are just general people are actually know that that's the background history of that narrative. And I have a news flash for everybody. White people are in charge, right? So it's like let's.
It's definitely a fantasy. It's a fantasy. A variation of it's been around since Civil War, right? You guys had a Reconstructionist period where your white supremacists systematically destroyed everyone, wanting to destroy the bigoted racism that the South was built on after your Civil War. And a lot of your white supremacist power structures were set up then, and you've just never rooted them out. That's part of the issue. That's feeding into what you're seeing today because it never fixed, right? You've got a bunch of other things. Capitalism is reality. It's the status quo trying to continue to assert itself when we've long passed the point where they're going to be able to maintain the status quo. You've got the hate percenters there on Twitter trying to roll back the clock to Obama before everyone realized the system was fucked, right? You've got Republicans leaving office in record numbers because they're rats jumping from a sinking ship because they know they're done too, right? You've got a State Department posturing to invade Iran. You've got Jeff Bezos doing whatever the hell he's doing. But the whole system is already in a death. Bernie's primary planks, Medicare for all, income inequality, they're so massively popular, you don't need to compromise, right? As soon as the gatekeeping breaks, and it will break because it's all done at the top, right? It's going to swing so far to the left, it's not funny. But they're going to do everything they can to maintain that break. I mean, take a look at New York today. You watch Crowley's the whip, the U.S. Democratic Congress. They're going to play games. They're already playing games. We're already seeing reports about that. They're going to do everything they can to maintain power, but their power is fragile because they're controlling an organization that they don't represent, right? Now, I don't know how it's going to play out. What I do know is the status quo isn't going to hold, right? One way or another, it's going to break. And when you see people shouting one of these assholes out of a restaurant, that gives people hope and it gives people directions because you're validating their lives, you're validating their concerns, and you're sticking it to the people who've been ignoring them, right? The working class needs a voice. The Democratic Party in its current form exists to corral and silence that voice. So frankly, no one should be listening to them. Now, I've probably talked over the top of everyone, but I did want to say one thing for Amanda. You mentioned you're seriously thinking about getting a gun. I would suggest getting a soft vest instead and a non-lethal weapon because unless you know you're capable of shooting somebody, introducing that gun to a situation is more than likely to end up biting you in the ass. A vest will work, and if someone tries to use a vest on you because you were not prepared for the encounter, well, a vest doesn't leave you with bullet holes. It kind of stops that from happening. It's a much better choice. And something like a taser or mace or one of those really, really loud squealing devices instead. Anyway, I've probably talked enough right now. I might leave it to someone else. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. I really do appreciate that. Now, you actually did bring up some really good points on the weapon thing. Yeah, I've got some things to consider for sure. I've been kind of mulling it over for a while, as far as like if I should get a lethal weapon or not. But the thing is that I think what we're seeing now is kind of this. We're seeing a falling empire. I really do believe that. I think we're seeing this kind of push towards trying to salvage what's collapsing and doing a poor job of it because of being greedy. We elected somebody into office that's insanely greedy. And had no interest and currently absolutely has no interest in assuring that the working class have food on their tables and can provide and things like that. So we are seeing more hostility there, against these ruling class people because of this, because of how the nature of greed has really kind of hijacked all of our systems that were supposed to be for us and protect us. It's hijacked our military, it's hijacked our police force, it's hijacked our every aspect of government. It's controlled by by greed. So we're seeing that. We're realizing that we are spread really thin. We can push all the money we can, but we cannot keep invading countries for no reason. We can't keep, having bases in Africa just to like siphon off their fucking resources for the people that are currently in power. It's not only is it not practical, it's not moral. It's very immoral for us to keep doing this. And I think people are tired of this. And a good way to assure that people don't, come together, don't fight back, is just again start pitting each other against each other. So that's why you see this whole like attack on immigration. There was no immigration crisis. There hasn't been an immigration crisis. It just didn't exist until you decided it existed, until you invented it in your head to make sure that people targeted the weakest among us, and punished people because there is an anger and hostility in the States. And this is not just exclusive to the United States. You're seeing this happen all over the world because of these neoliberalistic policies. It's really damaged a lot of people. It has displaced a lot of people. It has put a lot of people out of work. It has killed a lot of fucking people. People are angry and they don't know where to direct it. So when they're told by somebody that they fucking trust for some reason that it's not us, it's them, then they're going to attack them. And I think that to some extent you're right on the Andrew, you're right on the like weaponization or trying to fight, gain arms against the liberal left or the progressive left, so that they shut up or whatever. Because you said it was kind of like this white nationalist writer basically said that in order blah blah blah. Anyways, we all heard him, and but I don't think that the people that are calling for this stuff or that are kind of falling in line to that narrative realize that. I think that they are, I don't know what they're thinking, but I can't imagine that we have that many white supremacists in the United States, that it would encompass the entirety of the right. And we have a lot of guns in the United States. There's more guns than people. So armament is not an issue. Never has been an issue. But as far as like not having enough of them. But yeah, it's very troubling. And again, it sure does pit the left and right against each other instead of punching upwards, like Janet was mentioning earlier. Like when are we going to wake up and realize that it's the top? It's the people that are running the country that are hurting us. They're the ones that do all the policies. They're the ones that created things like NAFTA, which assured that people's jobs went overseas. They're the one doing this. We didn't do this. Immigrants didn't do this. Minorities didn't do this. The LGBTQ plus community didn't do that. It was literally the ruling class that did this. I mean, this is so feudalistic to me. I've been watching, I don't know why I've found comfort in this, but I've been watching a lot of documentaries about the British monarchy, and especially, during the Middle Ages and the Tudor dynasty and et cetera, and about like them kind of collapsing and I mean it feels a lot like that to me. You've got a ruling class of individuals that it is so hard to get into that section of elites. Now, it was very similar during the middle class monarchies. You had a ruling class of individuals that they had a party you weren't invited to. There were very few times that people were able to get into the courts or not, into the court of that system, where they were kind of like, servants or something along those lines, but somehow they were able to break through. It happened so very minority amount of times, and we are there. We are at the wealth and income inequality not seen in the past 100 years. It's bad, guys. And then you've got the UN report saying how many millions of Americans are in severe poverty. Then you have somebody that like Nikki Haley that says, no, it's actually 250,000 people in poverty in the United States. Okay. Let's say I'm a good person. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Let's say, Nikki, that's right. There are only 250,000 people living in severe poverty as defined as $12,000 or less a year. Okay. That's still 250,000 people in severe poverty. Can we please do something? Can we make sure that they get helped? Can we ensure that they have the sources, the benefits that they need? And by the way, that measurement that they got, the 250,000, how they kind of did that was they said, well, all the people getting assistance doesn't count because they're getting governmental assistance, which, by the fucking way, has been cut by your administration. So, yeah, you're using old data because you're using the data that doesn't include the recent cuts to all of these programs and all these governmental assistance programs that were helping people, by your own words, not be in poverty because they had these programs. Now you're cutting them. What's the end result? You're going to increase those numbers. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. If you want to make that argument, then don't make cuts to fucking programs that are assuring that people aren't in fucking poverty, which, by the way, they still are. They still are, because the definition of poverty has not been, updated for the increasing costs that we all are facing. So yeah, even those people that are on governmental assistance programs are still in poverty. That's a reasonable measurement that you refuse to measure because you're just by default assuming that those programs are lifting them out of poverty, which it is not doing because we haven't updated it. We haven't, y'all.
I'm sorry. I want to say one thing. I tried living on $30,000 a year in Massachusetts, and that's like near impossible. And so you're assume that people, on 12,000 or less a year,
you're a shit person. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're a shit human being. If you think that $12,000 or less is the only measure in which we should measure poverty, and anybody who gets governmental assistance program assistance is thereby lifted out of poverty, you're a shit human being. You know why? Because in that fucking report that you are denying to some extent, I guess, you're just addressing what the poverty level actually is instead of what they said in the fucking report. In that report, they literally talked about raw fucking sewage being in people's water. Are you going to fucking address that? No, you're just going to focus on a number. What about the people that are drinking fecal matter? Okay? Or they talked about in that report people not having electricity. Are you going to address that? No. They talked about in that report people having hookworm, which apparently, again, is not seen in other Western modern nations. That's seen in we're talking about third world country like conditions in the United States. But instead of focusing on all of those elements, you want to focus on, oh, it's just 250,000 people in poverty. It's cool. We're good. No, you're a shit human being. And fuck the left, not you guys. Fuck the non-progressive left, the quote-unquote center left, for not calling this out. Fuck you guys. Because this is important. This is important. No wonder you got people, can you imagine, like, your water's contaminated. What does that do to you? What does that do to your brain if you're a developing human being, if you're a child? You got your water's contaminated. All you have is like lead contaminated water or E. coli contaminated water. what does that do to you? What does that do to your development? It means that you will always stay in an underclass type situation because maybe it induces some kind of brain damage. That was what's found out with lead. Lead poisoning for children is so dangerous because it causes brain damage to the point people end up being more violent if they're exposed to lead. And so you're going to continue poisoning people so that they remain an underclass in the United States. And fuck everybody for not calling them out on this. I'm sorry. This is important. And then you want to talk about like trying to gun down fucking the left. Really? Fuck you guys. I'm just so sick of that shit.
Well, I guess we know and on the civility issue.
Right. I guess at some point during my little rant there, mentioned that this is why the Democratic Party, because what is it? The fake opposition party. I really do believe that the Democrats were hijacked by the Republicans a long time ago and became a way in which to give the illusion of a two-party system in which there was the illusion that a party would fight for the people. And then the other party, that's just the other party. When in actuality, they keep implementing very right-wing policies. They did it under Obama. You think the ACA was a progressive, a progressive policy? Fuck no. That was a big give out towards a corporation, which was modeled from Mitt Romney, from Romney Care, and also a Heritage Foundation plan that was heritage. It got the Heritage Foundation stamp of approval, which is a right wing. What is it? Super PAC or think tank? The think tank. Heritage Foundation. It's kind of excusing. Yeah, I don't know why the video is freezing. Is the video still going?
It's going.
Okay. I think we're having some issues with that. Let's see. Okay. I don't know if anybody got the thing.
I had a little buffering still.
So it's interesting too, because you have this fake opposition party that continues under the bus, and then they want to, or they don't campaign for or support people of color that are running this. And right now we have less people of color in congressional leadership positions than we did during Reconstruction in the United States. Can you believe it? Does that not surprise? I mean, that should be like, what the fuck? If the Democratic Party really was interested in supporting minorities, if they even really were.
The candidates that they're supporting now. I mean, if you look at it, you know, they had the big push with Hillary saying, oh, you know, she's a woman, you should support her.
All the time. But I really hope you guys that you in the audience are talking to your family and friends about these things, so that you could be like, you know, we haven't had so little minority representation since like slavery. Like there were more minorities in Congress and in congressional leaderships during the Reconstruction than there are now, and that should be very telling to you guys. And then bring up the Maxine Waters thing. Like maybe you disagree. Maybe if they disagree, okay, even if they disagree with the fact that she was calling for people to continue to protest. Let's say that that's their stance. First off, do you think that she did that without the Democratic Party's initial permission? Do they do anything without permission from the Democratic Party? Okay, my second point is, so we're going to assume that, yeah, she probably did have permission to do that. And then when there was like the feedback of the narrative about, oh, it's trying to incite violence and things like that, then they're like, oh, okay, no, Maxine, we don't do that. We need to be civilized. They threw her under the bus. the like one progressive thing, one semi-progressive thing that she did, and they immediately threw her under the bus because of the right-wing narrative. Because of the right-wing narrative. That's why. So instead of standing behind somebody saying, like, no, we agree, we can't have protests, and we shouldn't criminalize and demonize protests because it is the right of the American people to do that. Instead of saying something like that, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, both released statements saying we are civilized, we need to remain civilized, blah 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 discourse, and we don't agree with Maxine Waters. Essentially, they threw her under the bus. So do you think they have people of color's mind, and do you think the Democratic Party cares about Black women, brown women, immigrants, anybody that's not white and powerful? I would argue that they don't. Lord, yeah, the Scottish shit too. Scottish. About the immigration ban. That's a whole nother monster. I don't understand.
Yeah, we probably could maybe bring up
a lot of things with the civility thing. I think we're kind of, I don't want to bring that up, so I don't think that's going to be in the poll. We'll probably end up there in the discussion anyways, because that's how we roll. But like as an initial topic, and I think I was talking to Lauren about this, about maybe sticking to one or two topics, because we will have a lot of voices, and I want to hear everybody's thoughts and things like that. And then, of course, give our audience the opportunity to also call in and give us their thoughts on the topic as well. But yeah, so we're going to probably in the very near future, when and if we do have talks, well, I guess generally we're going to make these polls probably Patreon exclusive polls, just because I think that if you subscribe to if you are basically paying us to do what we do and helping support the show, I would like to assure that they get first choice for sure to determine what topics they want to see, and what they would like to discuss. So subscribe to our Patreon page, because you could be you can decide what we're going to talk about next. So I would, even if it's just $1 a month, that would be literally $12 a year. I think that would be reasonable because we do have to go over a lot of material and also have some sort of thoughts about it as well, which is, you're not going to get that on mainstream media at all, just because, again, they are just there to be robots essentially, and support corporations. We want to be accountable to you guys, not corporations.
And also, if the super get people on that,
minus the interviews. But what do you think we should?
I'm just gonna
frequently, but I don't think I can do it at the same time. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure all this out. But we definitely love you guys' input, and love chatting with you guys. Like to hear what you have to say, and I think we'll continue doing that. So with that, I think we're done for the day.
All right, Lauren, you just have to hit the stop button.